Welcome to the Safe Life family. We're the Safety Guys. I'm Landon.
And I'm Kevin.
And we're excited you're joining us on the journey from Safety 101 to Safety Experts. Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's today's episode.
Yeah, I'm happy that you're here with us.
I had something happen at work today that reminded me of one of our past episodes. I work for a wonderful company, and we were able to take one of our teams that performed really well on this really cool tour and do kind of a celebration. I went to pick up the company vehicle, and I didn't have very good awareness of checking the vehicle before you get in and being aware of what was happening. And one of the seats was not hooked in, but actually flipped up on top of the other seat. And I noticed as I was driving to pick up this team, and man, I sure wish that I was more aware of my surroundings so it didn't accidentally fall while driving. So little plug for our awareness episode, but it's important. But how about we lead with our Safety Guy Minute, words of wisdom?
Oh,
I'm throwing you off.
Yeah. If you have a grandmother, grandfather, maybe a great-grandfather or great-grandmother, and you're struggling with some questions in life, ask them, and then have the courage to listen very intently and see where you're going from there. It'll bring a little bit more peace into your life.
Excellent. That's quite a good Safety Guy Minute.
Yeah, you threw me off on that.
Well, hey, what we're going to talk about today is how do you balance a change in mindset or education with, frankly, fear? When you start talking about things like bad guys or, evil or anything just bad happening, you run the risk of creating fear. And whether you're susceptible to that yourself or maybe your children, may impact them in a not helpful way. That's what we're going to talk about is how do you do it without creating an overabundance of feelings that are hard to deal with.
Yeah, it's a wonderful topic and very important. I used to always, depending on the age group that I was instructing, you have to be very careful with that because it's a great balancing act. The littler kids, what I would tell the parents to have several practices at home. Most of my studies of these serial killers and other people that are just evil, they have a way to try to capture these kids. And we're talking directly strangers now. But I would try to implement them and tell the parents to say, well, just take it, for example, candy, or I've got little boys love bugs and stuff, but let's just say it's candy. And you, as a father or a mother, grandfather or grandmother, if you practice this enough times, and my son can tell you, when you hear this key word, instantly, you never have the fear, but the word, when you hear it, you're on your guard. And what I would do is just close my fist, and then say, little boy or little girl, your son or daughter, I got some candy for you. If you'll just come over here, I'll give you some. Now, without fail, when you start this practicing, they'll come over to you. Even if you say, we're going to teach you a little bit about danger, stranger, whatever you want to call it. And what I'd always try to do is, no matter what, don't make them feel like a failure. Give them a big bear hug and kiss them and say, I got you this time. I tricked you. And then tickle them a little bit and say, want to try again? Well, almost without fail, they're like, yeah. And instead of, you can say the candy, and they'll be a little wiser, but you still use that key word when they're smaller. Hey, little boy, little girl, I've got some money. You can go to the store and buy any candy you want. You just come over here and get it. Most of the time, because you're a lot wiser, of course, being a parent.
Well, we're supposed to be.
Yeah. And it's so much fun to see all of a sudden, well, okay, maybe he does have money. I know I'm not going for candy right off the bat, but you just change it up enough times and try to put it into a weekly, maybe on when you guys get together as families or something and you have a little activity, just play a little game like that. And without fail, I know with our children, even when they got a little older and a teenager, all I'd have to do is say, "Hey, little boy," and boy, their eyes would wide open. They'd look just for a second. It was just embedded in them that if it were, my hope was is if a stranger tried to play that particular game to kidnap them or something, that they would be on top of it and survive.
And thank heavens, that wasn't an experience we had to go through.
Yeah.
But I do remember that regularly. And then it became kind of push the little sister. That's not proud of that, but you go get the candy. I won't, but I do remember that. And it wasn't something that we did, goodness, regularly, but
Yeah,
just after dinner or something like that. It was an easy way that none of us were afraid or anything like that with those situations.
when they get about 12, 14, then you change the game up a little bit more of understanding how they can be tricked. And in this world today, oh my goodness, there's just so many different things. Something's happening in high schools right now that's just crazy bad, but it's working. And what they do is they play on this social media thing, and if people like them, and they're all teenagers. I don't care who you are. They go through this time that they don't believe that they're, all that and more. But you just you got to tell your teenagers and or your grandsons and granddaughters that there's tricks out there. And this one, just I'll share it with you just real quick because it's just so bad. But they'll somehow find the phone number on their smartphone, and they'll actually know their name. There's a way that they do this of hacking and finding out even what school they go to. But let's just say they're walking down the hall and the text comes and says, "Hey, I want to just tell you that I just really think you're an awesome whatever it is." And then they leave it blank. No, all it is a phone number, no name tied to it or whatever, which creates the curiosity with the kid. And then they'll say, "Hey, who is this?" Then they reply back saying, "Oh, do I have the wrong number? Is this really," I'm just going to use Kevin. "Is this Kevin?" And then the person says, "Yeah, but who are you?" And then they just say something like, "Well, I'm not sure if this is who I'm talking to, if it is the right Kevin or not. I just want to be safe, but maybe if you can Snapchat a photo to me, then I'll share who this is." Well, when they do the picture, and I cannot tell you, Landon, how many teenagers I've tried to help out of this situation, and currently even, but they send the photo of their face, and then they've got this technology to cut the neck and then put different body that's totally inappropriate. And then they send that back, and then they blackmail them, say, "If you don't find a way to get some money to this address," whatever they want to do. Sometimes they'll say, "Hey, go buy an iTunes card or something, send me the code. I'll share this with your whole school." And it's so bad and so compromising to their sweet souls that they really do find ways.
Wow.
We actually have 2 young people in this community, in this area that we live in, that didn't know how to deal with it, and they've taken their lives.
Oh, wow.
So if somebody would have told them, educated them on this, instantly they would have like, "Yeah, right. You want my picture? Then go fish."
Yeah. If you don't know who I am, then don't message me.
Right.
But
right.
That's not a thought that I would have had as a youth. It's just simply not.
Yeah.
So I guess same principle. Our goal today is to try and figure out a way. How do you teach this without creating fear? How do you balance that with a teenager who's frankly sometimes think they know better than we do?
Yeah. Practice. You can practice that kind of stuff too with a friend's phone, just as a test. I can't tell you how many times I've had in my classes that they said, "Hey, do you got an extra, half an hour? Can you come and test my children?" And I never did really like to do that. I'd always get permission from several different levels in our administration, but sometimes they were prepared and sometimes they weren't. And so the parents then had an opportunity to teach them. And that's the same thing with, do you have your little kids or even a 10-year-old answer your front door. Sometimes you can knock on the door and see if they're going to answer it, and grab them, hug them, make them feel successful, but then let them learn that lesson in a positive way. If they think they're going to fail every single time, then it's going to be a bad situation when the real thing comes.
And what does that do for your relationship too? I think that's a really good point. That's something that is really hard to teach to any age from 3 to 9. They're just happy with anything. And
thank heavens for that.
Right.
We want to keep that.
But that's, I think another great idea. It can be almost just testing how they do. Give them a situation and then talk about it. Say, wow, here's the good things that you did. But how can I not trick you next time? Definitely a different feel to that.
Most kids, because competition, they can say, oh, I'm going to get you next time. And they just like, yeah, go ahead and try. It's just a very positive thing. And then give it a week or two whenever you feel like it and it comes to your mind. Try them, test them again. It becomes kind of a fun thing over time, and they'll never forget it. Even when they get older, there's things that will help them if you do it right.
I think we talk about the buddy system and how to, say information or do things that with people that you trust. I think that's another important one. Having that game plan before you go in to make that test is going to be important, because you don't want to have those scenarios where, they drive away with the mask on or anything like that. That I think can probably be taking it a little too far, but let's transition. How do I try to develop that mentality, even though I'm an adult? How do I do that without still being focused on the fear or the negative or the bad things that can happen?
Oh, another good question. I don't know. You're going to think I'm crazy on this, but there's a feeling that I've had that comes to me when things are not just right. And it helps me all of a sudden just flip the switch to more of an assertive, okay, I've got to look out. I got to watch for the train. And it comes at the most unique times. And I'm going to be honest, most of them, nothing happens. But I'm thankful for that feeling. And if you just listen to yourself, I think we've all been given a gift that it helps us so that we're not going to be victimized. And the other thing, if you, sometimes I'd hate to have anybody every single minute of the day worry that, okay, someone's going to be kicking in the door right now. And you have the shotgun on the table. But if you just, follow some of the rules, if the doorbell rings, there's just some things that you can do in your family to teach your family, okay, this is the doorbell rings. Okay, now it's ABC. They don't even have to worry about, okay, is it going to be a situation that's bad, but they just know how to follow these steps. Same thing with as adults. I watched a video 2 nights ago. It happened down in Utah, but the victim went to the bank, got a large sum of cash, went home, and somebody followed him home. And as soon as they parked in the parking lot, or their driveway, excuse me, the bad car pulled right up behind him, and guys came out with guns.
Oh, wow.
Now, he couldn't go forward or crash into his house, and then I don't think he would have went completely through it, but instantly the ABCs, that I've shared with you guys is now that car has to become the weapon to get out of there. And I just put it in reverse and ram them and get out of there and call the police maybe you could take out their engine or something with that particular thing. And it just, you gotta be on your toes. If you are taking a large sum of money out at a bank and they're counting it out, you get to 3,000, 3,100, and there's people around you instantly, that should be you got to get on your safety mode right then and figure something out.
So a lot of that seems like practice is the right answer. You don't need to be constantly fearful of everything, but if you're aware of those situations and you're just opening your eyes a little bit more often, I think it might be a good way to start to, okay, what are the situations that could cause problems? And yeah, that's takes a little bit of a creative mentality to say, if I was a bad guy, but practice and in situations where you know things could happen, turn on that. Censor's the wrong word, but that's kind of the best thing that comes to mind is look for that feeling, that gut feel, and be aware. Look at the situations and try to apply some of those principles.
When I went to police academy, we had an instructor that was just so good. Every situation that he put us in, he'd always say, okay, before you get to this situation, bank robbery, domestic violence, whatever it was, he says, pretend like you're the bad guy. Figure out how they're going to get you or commit the crime. And he says, you'll be just that much better when you get there. And what you just said it reminded me of that, how he trained us to go into a situation. It's good advice.
It's hard to take that time out of your day, but we think it's worthwhile, and we hope that helps.
Yep.
Thanks for joining us.
See ya.
If you feel like we helped guide you in your journey to a safer life or home,
or if you just think we're awesome,
please follow us for more. After all, who doesn't like a thumbs up or a subscribe?